Good morning, everybody. Sorry I'm a few seconds late. Kettle took longer to boil than usual. Today is Monday, the 26th of September, 2022. It is the day that NASA is deliberately crashing a satellite into an asteroid to see if they can make it change direction, which of course is the plot from the film Armageddon, which is interesting timing because I think today is the day, certainly, that the stock markets are going into Armageddon. The pound is at its lowest level ever overnight. And the purpose of today's live stream is for agents who've not experienced anything like this before to be prepared for what I'm almost certain is about to start happening. So this is a heads up for agents who are even contemplating the fact that there might actually be a house price collapse, because the FTSE is a day-to-day market index tracker, and no such thing exists for the housing market on a day-to-day basis. But if it did, oh, my signal's breaking up, isn't it? If it did, today would be the day. 1 second, guys. Let me see if I can improve that signal. I'm going to press on. I don't know why my internet connection is going slow. Let me change. Guys, I'm going to switch my internet connection to my backup because I don't think you can hear me. Sorry. Just bear with me 1 moment. It's not getting any better. And I'm switching over to my backup connection now. Back in 1 moment. Right, I'm back, and it looks better now. So let me keep going. Let me get rid of this thing on my screen as well. So today is the day I believe is going to be Armageddon in the money markets, and that's going to feed into the housing market. And for those of you who want to understand exactly how the thing works, it's very crude but simply is this. So when the pound has fallen to historically low levels, as it has done this morning, let me just show you this morning's headline on Bloomberg.com, so you don't think I'm making this up. Here it is. So that's the wrong one. Go on, all over the place this morning. Forgive me. There we go. So that's the wrong. What a mess this morning is. I'm sorry, guys. Being all over the place. Here we are. Got it at last. Here it is. So pound plunges to record low of $1.03. It's back up at about $1.06. And in 10 minutes, the UK markets are going to open, and I think you're going to see all hell break loose. This is going to force two things that's going to happen. First of all, adds much worse and unexpected inflationary pressure. So this is going to make inflation that's already very bad get worse. That is going to force, I was just listening this morning to an interview with the Bank of England former Monetary Policy Committee member who said the Bank of England will try to avoid an emergency meeting because they'd like to present the appearance of stability, but they may not have a choice because things are in an emergency setting, and they may have to make an emergency adjustment to interest rates, which will be up. And if they wait till November, then the rates are going to be a much steeper climb. But I think today is a very bad day at the office for Liz Truss and her crew, very bad day at the office for the money markets. Not yet. It's not going to translate today into the housing market collapse, but I think today is the beginning of it. And I want to give you guys the heads up about how to manage this and manage it in your businesses and what it means for your pipelines. Okay. Let me get that off the screen now. So I've seen a lot of especially less experienced agents just saying, no, supply and demand. So that's why house prices are going to keep going up, because supply and demand, right? Without really understanding the subtleties and nuances of the supply and demand. And mortgage rates, you will be aware, have already gone up. And this morning's news means that mortgage rates are likely to go up much further and much worse, at least in the short term. And that simply means that there are a lot of buyers right now who are trying to buy property, who are suddenly going to get a mortgage quote showing them that they can't actually afford to buy property at today's prices, even if they want to. The mortgage availability, the funding they're going to be given is just not going to be enough, because the cost of monthly repayments is going to be too high. And so that's going to force, whether anyone likes it or not, a huge reduction in the finance available to buy homes. And the prices will take a while to drop and catch up. It can't happen overnight, okay? And what I think this is going to lead to, give me 1 second, I'm really just disorganized this morning, didn't even manage to get my coffee pour before I started. And what I'm going to get into today, because this is a live stream for estate agents especially, is what's about to happen at the coalface with your deals in your current pipeline and your offers and your looming pipeline, okay? Because if I am right, if what's going to unfold today unfolds today, I think it's going to lead to, in the coming days, this week, and then weeks and months leading up to Christmas, a complete unraveling of a lot of deals in the pipeline and widespread renegotiations. So widespread deal fall throughs as the market recalibrate itself financially. Okay. And if you're an estate agent, you're the first person your client's going to call to say, what should we do? If you're an estate agent, your buyers are going to be calling up going, I don't know if we can carry on with this transaction. And you need to know what to do and how to handle that. And you need to have some background in the wider UK economy situation to be able to provide them with valuable advice rather than just, no, please go ahead and buy, because again, they may not be able to. One more bit of context for anyone watching the Best Agent YouTube channel that's unaware of it. My Moving Home with Charlie YouTube and other social media channels have somewhat exploded in popularity in the last few weeks. And across all the channels, I've now got 17,000 home moving followers. And on a daily basis, I am getting private messages, mostly from buyers, but also from sellers, letting me know what's happening and what they think and what they're worried about. And the overall taking the temperature of all of those messages is, we're going to renegotiate or we're going to pull out on the buyer side, and sellers going, what do we do if we're expecting our buyers to renegotiate? What do we do? And of course, I can't advise them on that. You've got to talk to your agent. Okay. Excuse me. I need to sip my coffee. If you're unaware of just how badly the mortgage rate increases are going to affect buyer affordability, you haven't done the maths, and you need to do the maths and work out what it actually means, because it's quite simply making, not only for first-time buyers about to buy or in a pipeline deal about to buy, but also first-time buyers who've just bought and are looking at what it's going to cost when their fixed rate ends, which is happening for a lot of them. They are realizing we will be able to afford our new payment. So therefore, we are going to have to sell, not because we want to sell, but because we'd rather sell now than end up with a mortgage we can't afford and have our home repossessed. Okay, so there are going to be forced sales happening sooner rather than later as well. And again, agents need to be one step ahead of the curve to handle that as it happens. Because if you're well prepared, this is a great opportunity. If you're not, it's just going to be an absolute car wreck for you and your business and your clients as well. So inflation is going to, I mean, the inflationary pressures of what's happening as a result. And by the way, the reason that the pound has fallen to an all-time low is because worldwide investors have looked at what the mini budget said on Friday and gone, no, that's not going to work, is it? And you also are literally dodging the question about how you're going to pay for it. You're just literally borrowing £100 to £200 billion more next year in total for all of it, with not even a hint of how you're suggesting you're going to pay for that, which means you can't pay for it, which means the UK is basically bust. And that's what international investors are seeing and feeling. I think you're going to see political turmoil this week as well as financial turmoil. And it's beholden on you as agents to be able to guide your clients through this coming financial storm. Okay. And what I'm going to get into is exactly what steps I would be taking. Listen, guys, if you're an experienced agent, you don't need to hear this from me. You already know what to do. You're probably not even watching this if you're an experienced agent. But I know, because I've had messages from some of you that actually you are interested in my views on this. Doesn't mean you have to believe me or agree with me, but you are nevertheless interested. So another bit of background, what a lot of you don't know is that I have spent the last 20 years not only as a supplier to hundreds of different agent companies of all different sizes, but also consulting to individual agent businesses of different sizes. And I've helped run estate agencies through times like this, although not as bad as this has been before. And I've seen what happens. In fact, I'll tell you a quick story to get this started. In the early 2000s, I was running a business in London which sold professional photography and floor plans and virtual tours as a one-stop service to London estate agents. And we had lots. And we had two clients that at the time, same size clients, Dexter's and Lauristons in the early 2000s had the same number of branches. And in the market, there was a sort of market downturn in the early 2000s in the property market after the dot-com boom and bust. And I remember, because we used to go and photograph and measure for floor plans all of the properties that Dexter's and Lauristons at the time were putting on the market. And when the market tightened and a downturn was expected, it was fascinating to see the different ways these two companies reacted. Lauristons at the time reacted with, right, we're stopping our marketing. We're going to cut back our costs because we're really worried the housing market is going to collapse and we just need to protect our costs. And Dexter did the opposite. Dexter's decided to step up and go much more aggressively with their marketing. And they said, no, we're actually going to start doing professional photography and floor plans on more properties, because they were only doing it on high-end stuff to begin with. And what's happened since then is history, right? Lauristons never really grew to anything and became bought out by someone else. I don't even know if it's still a brand. Dexter's has become part of one of the biggest estate agency groups in London now. So it was fascinating seeing how estate agents reacted to the downturn back then. So again, this is not, let me just qualify something. I think the money markets are going to have a bit of a bang today. I think that's going to take a while to trickle into the effect of the housing market, and this is a heads up, okay? I think you're going to start getting phone calls this week from your clients. And the problem is this: when interest rates go up, and they might be panic raised in the early weeks and months and then come back down a bit, but there's going to be real turmoil for a while, which is going to make buyers just sit on their hands. I mean, I would, if I was a buyer and interest rates are about to spike up higher, I'd probably go, well, I'm just going to wait and see how this plays out. So that's another likely effect. But it simply means a lot of buyers will not be able to buy even though they want to. And so that's going to mean that a lot of the support that's propping up the demand is going to literally vanish effectively overnight when the government and Bank of England starts to react to this economic crisis. Which means that a lot of sellers who up until now have been reasonably expecting that they could sell, are going to find out that they can't sell. And that's going to make their sellers do one of two things. They're either going to decide not to sell and come off the market if they are able to stay where they are. And a lot of people with equity in their properties are probably going to choose that as a safe option rather than chasing the market down. Or they're going to say to you, we have to sell. What do we have to do? How low do we have to drop our price? And if you get that right, you'll be doing yourselves and them a great service. And if you get it wrong and they don't drop it enough and they keep missing the market as it drops and drops and drops away from them, that's going to be a nightmare for your clients and for you and your reputation and your credibility. All right. So, okay. There's nothing any of us can do about it when buyers decide that they can't buy or they won't buy, they don't want to buy, and they pull out. It's a very real, tangible effect on the property market and the pipeline of transactions. Okay, and my prediction is that in the weeks and months between now and Christmas, we are going to see an overall recalibration of the UK's property market pipeline of agreed deals. That's what's going to happen in the coming weeks and months. Okay, most agents are going to be spending most of their time holding together deals that are otherwise going to collapse, renegotiating deals between buyers and sellers, and managing the recalibration of the property market pipeline as a whole. And of course, trying to make sure you're managing it for your own business as well. Let's just see the markets open, what's happened. I can't see it yet. So it hasn't begun yet. What has begun, what I've heard a lot of agents telling me, is new buyer inquiries and new buyer registrations and new buyer interest and offers have just fallen off a cliff. That's happened already. That's happening. And I've heard agents say that privately and publicly. New buyer registrations have just gone tumbleweed, nothing. It's just fallen off a cliff. Okay. So because I'm hopefully telling you this in time to give you time to prepare before it really starts in earnest, I want to share with you something that I've learned that has become an amazing strategy for coping with any form of crisis in life, in business, and do with some of you may or may not know, if you've watched any of my other videos, that I am my hobby is flying. I'm a private pilot. I've been flying about 10, 12 years. And the way they teach you to manage a crisis in flight, which of course you have to be trained for, is with this following 3-word mantra that all pilots have drilled into them. And it is this: it's aviate, navigate, communicate. Roughly speaking, it means, first of all, fly the plane. Don't worry about anything else. Don't worry about which direction you're heading. Don't worry about the weather. Don't worry about airspace. Don't worry about engine. Don't worry about communicating with air traffic control. You don't worry about any of that stuff until you know that the plane is flying under control. You fly the plane first, right? And I'll tell you how I translate it into business in a second. Once you know that you've got the plane under control and whatever crisis has happened is the most immediate danger has been contained, then it's your navigation. Which direction do you need to fly? Because maybe you've got to go somewhere different now for an emergency landing or something, right? Where are you going? What's your direction? Okay. And when the plane is under control and you've decided on your direction, then you do number 3, which is you communicate. You communicate with air traffic control, your crew, your passengers. You do the communication, but you don't do the communication until you've got the plane under control and you made a decision where you're flying. Now, how do we translate that into business? If I was an estate agent now with a pipeline that I'm worried about managing, I would be taking a step back. I would probably be putting my phone somewhere because I don't want the phone calls yet. I don't want to answer the phone calls from clients and applicants and buyers until I've made a decision about what my overall advice strategy is going to be. And I would want to be taking control of my business. I would be prioritizing the holding together of existing deals above anything new. Okay, that's the fly the plane bit. That's the aviate part. Your pipeline has taken you weeks and months to build up to where it is now, and you must prioritize the holding together of that as best you can. Okay, so that means you've got to ignore, to an extent, all the new stuff coming along, responding to new leads, that kind of stuff, until you know your pipeline is contained. as best as you can. And what that means is probably calling your clients in advance to let them know that they should perhaps prepare for a renegotiation or a pullout, and what they should do in the event that that happens. Because if I was a client, a seller, and I was worrying about this, and my agent rang me before I had to ring them, that would make me feel secure and calm and like I was in good hands. But you can't ring them until you know what you're going to tell them. And that's comes on to part number 2, which is your direction. What direction are you going to take? What is your underlying advice to your clients going to be? If you've had a chance to think about that before you call them, again, you're going to come across as a much more confident and a calm and safe pair of hands in a crisis. Okay, and if it doesn't feel like a crisis yet, great. I'm really that's good. That means that I'm getting to you in enough time. You're going to have time to prepare for this. So, number 1, prioritize your pipeline deals. But just make sure you prioritize that and push everything else to one side. Number 2, work out what your advice is going to be. Well, in order for you to work out what your advice is going to be, you've got to get yourself informed on what's happening in the wider economy, right? The money markets, the budget, the recession, interest rates, all of these things that are going to have, whether you like it or not, whether you think it's going to happen or not, they are going to have a very real impact on the housing market and your pipeline and your business in the coming weeks and months and actually years. So up until now, it's been less important for you to have really good in-depth knowledge of what's happening in the economy. But whether you like it or not, that's going to become a new part of your job. And if you don't do that, and if your competitors don't do that, if the agents choose to go, oh, no, it's fine, look, there's a supply, it might be a bit bumpy for a while, but it's going to be fine, you're going to look silly if you're wrong. You're going to look silly. And a lot of agents, that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to just go, don't really understand what's happening, so I'm just going to say it's fine and hope for the best. And those are the ones that are going to struggle and probably fail if that's their approach to what's coming. Because as any agent who's been through this before will tell you, you need to know your stuff on economics and the economy and the recession if you're going to be able to stop your clients leaving you in droves because you sound like you don't know what you're talking about. So get prepared. And that's something, guys, that I would very much like to help with and offer for anyone that wants it. Okay, so it's something that I'll probably start to do on a regular basis on this channel. I'll start to give maybe weekly economic market forecasts and updates in the context of estate agency and property. What do I know? It's what I did instead of university. I did 3 years in the city, qualified as a broker in all the money markets, Securities and Futures Authority, so gilts, equities, bonds, futures, options, commodities, foreign exchange, the lot. I got a really good rounding of understanding of how global economics work. So I'm not saying I'm expert. I'm not an expert, but I'm slightly more qualified than anyone that didn't do that for a few years at the start of their career. My knowledge of the property market is in much more detail than it is of those. But hopefully, I'm offering my insight such as it is. And for those of you that don't know, actually, I called this back in February of this year. So we're in September now. February this year, I called this first, and then again in May on the Best Agent Breakfast Show. I think it was the 19th of May. I actually said I'm sounding the early warning alarm, and May was 4 months ago. So I called this 4 months ago, and the only reason I was able to do that was because of this background I've got of being able to see what the money markets are doing and what it says for the future. And a lot of my contacts that used to work, they're still there. 25 years later, they're still there, and they're now running some of these big companies and banks and places. And I get to talk to them and get to see what their insight is. So I do have first-hand connections in that world, as well as my background in that world, on top of all my connections in the property market. So I hope I've got something of value to offer agents who would like it. And please, if you haven't already, subscribe to the Best Agent YouTube channel and follow me on Twitter, LinkedIn, because that's where I do my estate agency guidance, such as it is. So that's what I can do to help you with at point 2 of this 3-point plan in preparing your advice for your clients. And in a nutshell, what is that advice going to be? I think in a nutshell, it needs to be, I'm going to have to call all of my clients and tell them that they may need to prepare for renegotiations because that's what the market is seeing. Okay, roughly speaking, that would be my just one line recommended strategy right now for estate agents would be preparing yourself with the information you need to go and call your clients and say, look, hopefully it won't happen. Hopefully your buyer's not going to want to rock the boat. I'm going to go through the deal and we're going to get your sale over the line. But if it doesn't, it's better to be prepared. So you might want to have a think about, are you prepared for a renegotiation in price? And if so, what would your conditions be? What would your price level be? And it might be that, okay, we'll take a 2, 3, 4, 5% drop or 10, whatever it might be, in return for a guaranteed exchange within a certain period of time. That's what I would be advising clients to do. But that's a generalist approach. And for the buyers that ring you, it's hard for you to give them impartial advice because you obviously want them to continue to move and buy. But at the same time, you've got to do the right thing and say to them, if your priority is being moved into a home where you're going to feel secure, then you've got to go ahead with it, provided you can afford it. But if you're saying that you're now worried you can't afford it and you want to rethink, then you must do what you've got to do, because what you can't do is mislead anyone into a situation that's going to be a life-changingly bad situation for them. I just don't think that's a way to earn a living. And then number 3 is going to be reconsidering the future strategy for your business. So there's once you've got your immediate pipeline under control, you've prepared your direction, so you know what you're going to talk to your clients about. It's then, okay, what does all this change mean in the longer term? And I'll be offering a lot of suggestions on that for people in the future. Let's just see if I've got anyone asking questions here. Yes, the British pound is falling because of dollar strength. That's great. It's the same thing. It's falling against the dollar. Right, guys. I'm going to just wrap it up here by saying, I think today, Monday, the 26th of September, is going to be a very turbulent day of turmoil in the financial markets. That's going to lead to political and economic uncertainty in the UK. That's likely to lead to higher interest rates. That's likely to lead to buyers pulling out or renegotiating, which is going to lead to sellers either coming off the market or having to think hard about how low they're going to drop their price, which is going to lead to your pipelines being, the most positive word I can think of is recalibrated. So if you've got questions for me and you'd like to contact me privately, go to LinkedIn, private message me on LinkedIn, or private message me on Twitter. Best Agent Boss, I am on Twitter. But otherwise, let me finish with this. Take a step back, take a breath, work out your priorities, be prepared for what I think is going to be an influx of phone calls from worried clients and buyers. And if that doesn't happen immediately, be a step ahead of it. Get your point of view together and then ring your clients before they ring you. That's going to be reassuring for them. That's my tip. I hope it's useful. All the best, guys. Remember, what you do does change lives. I'm a massive fan of what estate agents do if you do it well. And I have massive respect for all agents to make a living from it, no matter how well you do it. It's a very tough job. I wish you all the best, and I'll see you on the next Best Agent video. Bye.